Digital Audio Health by Symatrax.
Welcome to the Rhonda Grant Show with your host, Rhonda Grant. If you believe that there is more to life than what you see right now and you want to find out more, listen in as her guests share their journey and their extraordinary experiences. Now, here is your host, Rhonda Grant.
Welcome to the Rhonda Grant Show. Sometimes the universe has a way of placing people or obstacles in your path to help guide and direct you on your mission. Listen in as we discover the path my guest has traveled. Has she been inspired by a calling, crafted her journey, or a bit of both? I invite you to embrace the conversation and to use it to help you to recognize if this is happening in your life. Our guest today is Loida Nicolas Lewis, who went from an inspiring nun to a global badass CEO. Loida is an Asian American businesswoman, lawyer, philanthropist, and civic leader. Mrs. Lewis is the first Asian woman to pass the New York bar without attending law school in the United States. She worked as general attorney in the New York federal office from 1978 to 1988. After winning her discrimination case against the Immigration and Naturalization Services. She served as CEO of TLC Beatrice International from 1994 to 2007, a $2.2 billion multinational food company with operations all across Europe. She assumed its leadership after the untimely death of her husband, Wall Street financier Reginald F. Lewis, the first African-American to create a billion-dollar company. She released her memoir, Why Should Guys Have All the Fun, this year and was #1 in Amazon's new releases for 8 weeks. Welcome to the Rhonda Grant Show, Loida.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Rhonda.
I am so pleased to have you on the show. I'm so excited to learn about you and where you grew up and what inspired you to go off in the direction that you went off in.
You mean to say, why did I write the book? Why should guys have all the fun?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Well, you know, as you can see from my accent, I'm not born in the United States. I grew up in the Philippines.
Uh-huh.
And when I passed the bar, my father sent me around the world trip to stop in New York because my sister was studying at Columbia University.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I met Reginald Francis Lewis, the love of my life. We met on a blind date because my boss was going to date my sister. And coming from a very conservative country, the Philippines, we are 85% Catholic, I thought a blind date would be cool. So I said yes. And my boss, who was Harvard Law graduate, introduced me to Reginald Lewis. And that's how I fell in love. We were married in 7 months, and that's why I'm here. I married him, became a U.S. citizen, raised 2 kids, 2 daughters, and the whole story is in my book. Why should guys have all the fun? An Asian American story of love, marriage, motherhood, and running a $1 billion empire.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you have another course that you could have went down?
Well, I grew up in the Philippines. My father was able to become a lawyer, not able to become a politician. He was a very successful businessman. And so of the 5 children, he chose me, the first daughter. He had 2 sons, my 2 brothers, elder brothers. But because they were, succeeding him, he was so hard on them. But I was the first girl. So Niña Bonita, I can do anything. He empowered me. And I guess because I was very talkative, daring, fearless, ambitious. He said, Loida, you will be the lawyer. And so I became a lawyer, and his plan for me was to become a politician. So when I was 7 years old, he built a movie theater, the only one at that time, named after me, Loida Theater. So that when I'm ready for public office, I could run, and I already have name recognition. So it makes so much sense. So that was my goal. Philippines, politics, maybe governor of this, mayor, governor of my province, and all the way to senator. So that's the other way I could have gone.
Yes. And it's interesting because I don't know how many years ago that would have been, but he was branding you, right? Like right now, everything is about branding your book, branding yourself, so that people recognize the brand, like Coca-Cola or, all the big brands. But it seemed like your father had insight that to put you on the theater so that you would be a recognized name even before you became a lawyer.
Anybody.
I mean, that's sensational. That's just absolutely sensational, because now everybody is, you hire people to brand you to be recognizable, because everybody wants to be recognized as, all the football teams are branded. You know what I mean? It's just really interesting. So you married a man, and at that time, did he have that $1 billion company?
No, Mr. Lewis, like my father, grew up poor, not very poor, because my father lived with a rich uncle who was very entrepreneurial. And Mr.
Yes.
Lewis was, his mother separated from his father when he was 5 and lived with his grandmother with 10 other brothers, uncles and aunts.
Okay.
So in a way, he became the 11th child, although he was a grandchild. And so his mother was out working, single mother. Therefore, it wasn't very easy for him, husband. But what happened? What happened was Mr. Lewis was always considered by everyone, since he was the last child in a way, as being special. And he would accompany his grandmother, because the grandmother is the babysitting while his mother was working 2 jobs.
Oh.
And he would accompany his grandmother to clean white women's homes.
Okay.
And sometimes the employer, the white woman, would say, "Why don't you ask your grandson to help you clean the house?" Nope, he's special. So from the very start, he was given that self-esteem that he is special, that he will do great things. And in fact, when he was 7 years old, he already knew. This was one of the aunts who told me, "I want to be the richest Black man in America when I grow up."
Beautiful.
So all of that there. And for my father, because he was, at 12, he went to live with a rich uncle away from his mother, since he was orphaned when he was 12. So looking at the uncle having a movie theater, having a bowling alley, having a fish pond, several different businesses. So from a teenager, he knew what this is going to be, as a businessman, an entrepreneur like his uncle. So those were the background of 2 important men in my life. And so when I came over, I sort of absorbed that energy, that DNA, to be ambitious, to go for the top, to do your best.
Well, that's just wonderful. Do you feel that your father's influence helped you in your education and help you achieve where you were going?
I think the background, that being the first girl, and we are 2 girls, the background of having your father and your mother believing in you, that you can do anything that you set your mind to do, is very helpful as I was growing up. And, as I was growing up. So I was class salutatorian in grade 6, class valedictorian in high school. I gave the speech, high school. College, I was cum laude with honors. And for College of Law, I was in the top 10 of our graduating class. So it sort of like became a habit of doing your best, being number one. And if you can be number one, number two, or whatever it is, just doing your best.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I think that's the reason when I came from a Catholic high school, Catholic all-girls school in college, that I wanted to be a nun. I wanted to be a nun. Why? Because I saw how the lives of the women in high school from Germany coming to the Philippines, you know, God forsaken, who knows what the Philippines is when you were growing up in Germany. And for college, Belgian nuns. So I thought, what a life to devote yourself to something worthy, service to others, bringing them to Christ. So that's why when I was in law school, I was going to enter the convent.
Incredible. So how did you know which road to take?
All right. It's all written in my book, Why Should the World of Fun? All right. It's really my mother. My mother said, Loida, if you're going to your second year college, you have 2 more years to go. Why don't you just finish that, pass the bar, and then the merchandise is in your head. Wherever you're in the nunnery, you're outside the nunnery, whatever, you carry the merchandise in your head. And I said, that makes sense. So I told Mother Superior, I'm not ready. I can't come in. Because I was given a date, July 4, Independence Day. And I told Mother Superior, Mother Gu, she's French, that I cannot come in. I have to finish my... And then she was very understanding. I understand when the fruit is not ready to fall, it can't fall. Okay? You're not ready. So I left. I mean, not left. I did not enter. And I finished my law school. I passed the bar. And then my father sent me on a round-the-world trip to come to the US and Europe and back. And he will start my career. So that's my whole trajectory.
Yes. Well, it was very good advice from your mom to advise you to finish your college degree, right? Because it's almost as if all of the rest of it was waiting for you, which was not the school, not going to be a nun, right? Because you have had a fantastic life with what you have done. So you got married, you married Mr. Lewis. And can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it wasn't easy because as driven and as ambitious and as, type A, as you can see from from this interview, Mr. Lewis is double that, triple A, more driven, more ambitious.
Yeah.
Okay, and never accepting no for an answer. In fact, as we were courting, I told him, no, I don't want to see you again 2 times. And the 3rd time we were supposed to get married, I called him and said, I can't go through with it. I have to go back to the Philippines. 3 times I said no. But on the 3rd time, as I was on my way to the Philippines, I had a change of heart. I was so depressed that I will never see him again. And that's when my friend, who was studying in Stanford for his doctorate, said, Loida, if you're that sad, why don't you just call him? I said, never thought of that. Dial him back. Darling, I'm coming back. That's chapter 3 in my book.
That's chapter 3 in your book. Well, and if people purchase your book, I mean, they're going to read all the details. We're just going to skim over the top of it, right? Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah.
Why should guys have all the fun? But let me tell you, why did I title it that way?
Yeah.
Mr. Lewis died 5 years after he bought the billion-dollar company, Beatrice International Foods.
Yes.
Of course, it took me 1 year to get over that tragedy. And I am so glad that I am Christian, that I believe in a loving God, because that's the one that sustained me. In my heart of hearts, I knew that God will not forsake me. My husband may have begun, but God will not forsake me. And so it was after I recovered myself that I looked at what has he left aside from daughters, where I will be the mother and father to them, aside from the company, he had written part of a book that he wanted to title, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? How Reginald Lewis Created a $1 billion business empire. All right. So when it came out in 1995, I took it upon myself, not only that it got finished, I hired Blair Walker to finish it, but I went around the country. I went to France. I went to the Philippines to promote his book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? So when Catherine Graham, who took over Washington Post, a little bit like, sudden her husband died, the publisher of Washington Post, and she took over. And when she turned 75 years old, she had her book, My Own History or something like that. And in my mind, when I turn 75, I will publish my book. 75 came and went. When I was turning 80, so I called Blair Walker, who was his co-writer, Blair Walker, with Blair Walker. And I said, Blair, you've got to write me. You know already 1/3 of my life. I have to write. You have to help me write the beginning before Reginald Lewis and after Reginald Lewis. And he did.
Yes.
And that's why I named my book. His book was Why Should White Guys? My book is Why Should Guys Have All the Fun? An Asian American story of love, marriage, motherhood, and running a $1 billion empire.
Beautiful, beautiful. What was that like for you to pick up the pieces of the corporation?
Well, I knew that it's not going to be easy, but Mr. Lewis was smart enough to have 51% of the company. I had shares, my two daughters, Leslie and Christina, had shares, and his shares. So we have 51%. So if there is anyone in the board of directors who would object to becoming my CEO, I could dismiss them, and they knew that. So becoming chairman, being voted chairman, wasn't a problem.
Okay.
The problem was 1993. It was the worst recession in Europe. And a strong leader just died in January 1993. And that summer, our business is 50% ice cream in Italy, in Germany, in France, in Spain, in Canary Islands, in Norway, So it rained in Spain that summer.
It rained.
Everywhere else, it rained. So all of those factors, when I came in 1994, our earnings were down. We were close to bankruptcy. So those were the problems that happened when I took over. Liquidity crisis with our friends, partners, and crisis with just bringing up the company from a red into black, and thinking up with help from friends and, common sense decision, like selling our company plain and reducing our space from 35,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet. And
reducing
personnel. We were 33 in the corporate office. I moved it down to just 10. So making common sense decision.
Those are tough decisions to make, stepping into that role.
Yes, but also being fair to those that I'm going to let go, giving them very generous separation pay, and seeing to it that the support staff, the secretaries, have a job and not be left, hanging in the wind. So we called up Paul Weiss to take them because they were very good, assistants, and they're still there up to now.
Yeah, and they're still there up to now. Yes.
Yes, meaning to say, a profit with honor. I had to cut down because otherwise,
you have to. Yes.
The entire ship would crash and be a Titanic. But the only way will be, for me, it was common sense. Your earnings are down.
But it's
Income,
wisdom.
expenses, your earnings are down, your income is down, but your expenses is the same. So you'll have to balance it. You have to increase income, but reduce expenses. So in the first year, I already had a plus in the black, 1 million.
Perfect.
Net income. And the next year, 5 million net income. And the third year, 9 million net income. And the fourth year, 15 million net income. And then that's when I decided to liquidate the company by selling it piece by piece by piece by piece. So I paid down all debt. Mr. Lewis was supposed to borrow 1 billion, and he was very smart. He sold all companies, 64 companies in 31 countries, but he didn't need to keep it all. So he sold companies in Australia, in South America, in London, in China, and kept Western Europe, supermarket, ice cream, potato chips, and some other things. So by the time I came in, there was still $350 million leverage buyout debt. By the time I was ready to sell, to deliquidate, I eliminate. We had no more, zero debt. We had zero debt. Then I sold piece by piece by piece, and I got 1 billion back.
Excellent. Yes. And as the company began to grow again, then you had to hire more people.
No. By liquidating it, I reduced it from 1 billion. Well, I reached 2.4 billion in revenue. So I exceeded Mr. Lewis' income revenue. The revenues, it went up to 1.8 billion. By the time I was ready to liquidate the company, we had $2.4 billion in revenue. And when you decide to sell everything, then you reduce until, I sold everything. And I got 1 billion back. My shareholders were happy.
Oh, yes, very happy. But when the crisis of 93 happened and you had to lay people off, or then when you were building your company back up again, you had to hire people back, right? In order to...
No. The corporate office remained slim.
Okay.
Because our businesses was in Europe, and it's our managers who had to hire. And the reason why I increased the income was because our partners in France, the Beau family, Jean and Jacques Beau, and their brothers, their sons, Robert, and 2 brothers ran it, and their fathers. They had started a company that was like Benetton, which means everything in that store, a small supermarket called Leader Price, is named Leader Price. But when you bite into the crackers, it tastes like it's crackers. You drink their Leader Price cola, it tastes as close to Coca-Cola. And all the things in that store is named Leader Price, but it's 30% lower than the name brand. And so it grew by leaps and bounds. And that's why I was able to raise income it started with Mr. Lewis. Leader Price only had maybe 5 or 10 stores. By the time I left, they had 450 stores all over France.
Incredible.
So that's why I increased so much. It was the supermarket that gained and increased the numbers of people in Europe, not in corporate office. In the corporate office, we remained slim and lean.
And did you find that your college degree and your lawyer degree assisted you in finessing what you needed to do after Mr. Lewis's death?
Definitely. The law degree, and that's what I tell many young women who do not take law. Why? Because it will prepare you for everything. It will not make you hesitant to look at contracts. Of course, I hired lawyers, even though I'm a lawyer myself, but it does not faze me. It does not make me, I don't know what in it. No, I'm a lawyer. I can look at some contracts and know what is in it, but better to hire the specialist, business lawyer.
Exactly.
Yes.
If
If you're in business, You must have a good accountant, a business accountant, and a business lawyer.
Yes, exactly. Well, because there's so many different specialties within that practice, right? And you were better off, there was a better use of your time at the time rather than, going over contracts. Why not have somebody who knows exactly what they're doing? And then you feel confident about that. And if you don't know changes that are in the contract, well, then you have the education to ask those questions, right?
Yes, you're not intimidated.
You're not intimidated. And it's easy to be intimidated in the corporate world, isn't it?
Yes, and a law degree, you're grinded with words. So words will not faze you. That's why for women who do not know what to do yet, and they like reading, and they like arguing, and they like to be, they want to be always right.
Yeah.
But now, on the other side, okay, my own, is that I don't always have to be right. Why will we arguing with, friends, best friends?
I know.
I always have to be right. Is that not ego? Just listen. You say your word, your piece, and then that's it. I agree to be that we have a disagreement. But you don't have to pound and tell them, I'm right, you're wrong. I mean, it doesn't make for good relationship.
No, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but I don't believe that you're entitled to shove your opinion down somebody else's throat. And you end up with no friends because it's not comfortable for them either. And if they're doing that back to you, then it's just tug of war, right?
Exactly, especially for newly married, husband and wife.
Yeah.
All right. And the women, because of women's liberation, think that they have to always to be right.
Yeah.
They have always to be on top. I mean, it's different. I mean, you're in a relationship, give a break. Give him a break. Let him say what he wants. You said what you want. Let him say what he wants. Don't argue anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not important to be always right. You're wrong and I'm right. I mean, is that important in a relationship?
But how do you even know that you're right? I mean, you're right based on the information that you know right now. But maybe you're not right in 5 years from now. You know what I mean? Like you change your mind. And so, yeah, I don't get involved in things like that. I rather listen if somebody is really wanting to get their point across and they really are committed and that that's it, that they're not changing your mind. There's nothing I can say or do. And it doesn't matter what I think. I can think myself what I want to think, and I don't have to share that with anybody, right? And not even the person that thinks that they're right.
No, I always believe something said is something heard. If you are quiet, then it's a tacit compliance.
Oh, yes.
Whatever they're saying and you say nothing, when you think it is wrong, it's unjust, it's unfair, it's mean, you have to say something. Just say it. And period, the end. Shut your mouth, but you said it. You have to say it.
Yes. And there's a lot of strength in quietness as well, right? And being a witness to them while they're projecting whatever they're projecting on the person that they're projecting it on. And I think that, talk to me about grace. There's a point for women, I can't speak about men because I don't know this, but for women, there's a point where we step into a grace that we have the wisdom because of our years of what we've went through, what we've endured. And I have a hard time articulating this because I'm still figuring it out myself, that sometimes we can just be quiet and we don't need to shove things down people's throat anymore because we've done enough of that over our years, right? And I think that when we enter that stage, and I wish we could enter it earlier in life, that we stop the struggle, because I think that women, men have always basically worked, and then women had to step into the business world. And women, I think, felt that they needed to be a man stepping into a business world, which made them unattractive, because we have, as women, so many skills that we can develop that make us unique in how we do business. And women are very successful businesswomen. And you are a testament of that, right? And so speak to me about that. What do you feel about that?
No, I do agree with you 100% that we are women and they are men.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to copy them in order to be effective. To own your own true self, be true, or something like that.
Yes.
Meaning to say, be the authentic woman that you are. Of course, there are some exceptions. There are some women who have within themselves the desire, or meaning the minority group of women who are within themselves men. So I'm not talking about them.
Okay.
I'm talking about nurturing women, women who wants to go out there in the world, but you don't have to be a man. You don't have to be cursing here and there, F-U-C-K and, MF. You don't have to. We, by ourselves, by the way we are formed, by the way we become women, our own inner strength. For heaven's sake, we can give birth. We are mothers. And that doesn't mean fathers cannot be a mother. No, I mean to say, women have their special. We can do it not better, but differently. And that's where I think every woman have to find for herself her own true self.
Her own true self. And within finding her own true self, that's where her unique power is. And I don't mean power is like power driven or anything like that, but the authenticity of the strengths, that's a better word, isn't it? The strength that we have in this modern society that we're in that continues to evolve. You're listening to the Rhonda Grant Show right now, whose podcast has been treated with digital audio health by my sponsor, Simatrex. And I'm speaking with a most famous person, Mrs. Loida Lewis. Please let our audience know about the book, not only that you've written, but Mr. Lewis has also written his book, and also where they may reach out to you.
Yes. So both Mr. Lewis, my book, 95, this was printed in 95 and has been a bestseller in Business Week. And mine is just came out this year in March 28, in time for Women's History Month. So his book is Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? And my book is Why Should Guys Have All the Fun? An Asian American story of love, marriage, motherhood, and running a billion-dollar empire.
Beautiful.
You can find it in Amazon.com or Target or your closest bookstore, because they should have it. And if they don't, tell the bookseller, please order it. I'm going to have a book club discussion with my friends or whatever.
Yes, and they will order it, which is really nice. And especially if you do have a book club, they are still rampant. Order them for everybody in the club, and then have them pay you, or have them go pick them up at the bookstore. It's such a wonderful education. It really is. Do you feel that you've been called to your journey, crafted it, or a bit of both?
Yes. If you stay close to God or to the universe or whatever spirituality you're following, there will be moments in your quiet where you are impelled to do something. I mean, it's day to day. Every day, I do right. What am I supposed to do this month? It's sort of like my goals for this month. And then every day, have I done this or that? Because there's just so many, we are called to so many different directions.
Yes.
And if we don't have a goal, 1, 2, 3, or just even one, then we can be like a ship without direction, flowing here and flowing there, and moving here and moving there. So I do believe that all of us, not only me, but all of us have a calling to do something, and it has to be doing of service. I mean, a painter, the calling is to create a masterpiece coming from his own heart. A composer, Even a garbage collector, his calling is to see to it that the streets are clean. I mean, all of us have a calling to serve. And I think that's the calling that I have.
Yes. That's just beautiful. Yes. And you just don't want to be a boat adrift on the ocean, right? You do want to have some direction for your own life. And then the call of service is a beautiful calling. It really is.
Yes. May I share what St. Ignatius does, what he called discernment? How
Please
do you
do.
discern? There are two roads coming before you, and one is opposite from the other. And so he said, imagine yourself on this road. Imagine yourself who are people around you, what you are doing, where you are seated, where is the situation. Just imagine yourself maybe for one day in that situation, in that calling, or in that situation.
Okay.
And then the next day, go to the other side. Where are you calling from, or where you are, what situation, who are the people around you. And one of those two, where you will feel lighter, where you will feel a little bit heavier, a little bit happier, a little bit breathing better. So that's where you should go. That's how he said, when two roads diverge in the woods, and I chose the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So
that's a beautiful teaching.
That's from Robert Frost. Two roads diverge in the woods.
Yes, Robert Frost.
Yes. So
beautiful.
For those who are listening, a situation like that may come. Two men or two women are after you. You don't know where to go. So imagine that. With that person, how would you feel? With this person, how would you feel? And one of them, you'll feel better.
Yeah, because it's easy to make mistakes along your path and then look back and say, I should have, I shouldn't have. Right. That's a really good teaching. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know about that. Yes. Wonderful. What extraordinary...
What last thing? One, Rhonda.
Yes.
It's all right to make mistakes.
Tell me about that. Tell the audience about that, because people are afraid to venture on a path because they're afraid to make a mistake. Now, please tell us why you should make mistakes.
I understand your hesitation. All right. But if you don't go into an opportunity that comes, it might not come again. So you'll just have to trust your own heart and then just go into it. And if you fail, it's okay. That's the human condition. It's not the end. It's not the end. I always say, everything will be all right in the end. If it's not all right, it's not the end. So if you fail, yes, you cry. Yes, you feel bad, etc. But you have to learn from it. What did you do wrong? What happened there? Why was it wrong? And then if you learn from it, you won't commit the same mistake again. Because sometimes women especially, they do the same thing again.
Sometimes they do.
You have to learn. Why did you fail? All right. So for myself, I failed 3 times. After I was so successful, pride comes before the fall. I was so successful with TLC Beatrice. One of the shareholders sent me champagne bottle, Dom Perignon. Somebody else treated us, for a beautiful lunch. In other words, I felt, oh, wow, I'm so good. I'm hotshot entrepreneur, businesswoman. But I failed 1, 2, 3 times to buy a company. And the 4th time, bankruptcy when I bought it. And so what does it tell me? What did I learn? I'm not ready to devote 24/7. There was no more fire in my belly. And that's what I learned. So no more investment. Anybody who comes to me, Loida, it is such a wonderful, lot of money. I will listen. I will give you advice, but no investment. So I learned I'm no longer in the business of running a business. So that's it. You may fail. Life happens, but you can rise again. Tomorrow is the day. What is that song? The sun will come up tomorrow. So don't be afraid to take on an opportunity. You may succeed. you may succeed. So you will, if you don't, then, and that opportunity doesn't come again, then there will always be regret. Who wants to live with regret?
Yeah. Well, who wants to leave this earth with so many regrets? They didn't take chances. They didn't take action. They didn't take advantage of opportunities. Sometimes we don't recognize the opportunities until the opportunities pass. And we can talk ourselves out of a lot of things, and we can talk ourselves into a lot of things. But my caution, and let me know how you feel about this, is you have to be careful who you share your ambition with, because if that person would be afraid to take any steps towards having their own business or something, then they might be a naysayer and they might frighten you into not taking a chance, right?
Yes. Okay. In terms of entering into business,
Mm-hmm.
it's just that, oh, I have an idea. I mean, you have to do the work. You have to
Yes.
investigate. You have to call other business owners. You have to, it's a lot of work, 1,000 things. So it's just not, oh, I have a brilliant idea. That's not enough.
No.
Got to do the due diligence, they call it. You've got to do the work. You've got to do investigation. You've got to see, you've got to have a plan. And you have to help, get the help. If you don't know, get the help from somebody.
Yes.
The idea is not enough. It's a lot of hard work. And if you say, oh, I am not ready to hard work, then
don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it, because
and then in the end, don't say, oh, I have a brilliant idea. Yes, if you want, go through it, and then you will learn. Brilliant idea is not enough. Do you have the track record of doing business? Mr. Lewis was selling Afro-American newspaper twice a week when he was 10 years old, going around the neighborhood, delivering the newspaper. And after 2 years, he wanted to do something else. He sold it to his best friend. So at 10, already the business of buying and selling, buy low, sell high. Keep good records, buy low, sell high, keep good records. And so when you are 21 after college, you have a big idea. You've got to, plan it step by step, one foot in front of the other, not just a brilliant idea. So,
yeah. And being in business, people say, my time's my own. No, your time is for the company. And once that company is starting to make a profit, then you can have some time to your own. But it's, and I think that people think that business owners, they have a lot of free time, and business owners don't have a lot of free time. They have to meet the challenges. They have to meet the payroll. They have to meet all the time. But an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur, and they thrive on that because it keeps that flame going, right? The entrepreneurship flame.
That's right. It takes a lot of time and a lot of thinking and devoting time and all that to be a success. But this is what I warn business owners. Yes, you're doing, but don't think that that's it. You've got to think of an exit plan. Why? Because at a certain time, if you are at a certain time, there is a time to sell.
Yes.
Okay. There is a time also to keep. And you must be very, very perceptive on whether there's a time to sell, and you sell because that opportunity might not come again. It happened to me. We had a supermarket in China, and it was going gangbusters, and a supermarket company in Singapore wanted to buy it. But there were some elements in the contract that I did not like. And so I broke the deal. And after that, nobody came anymore. I missed the chance. So for those business owners who are listening, think about it. Be sure you have an exit strategy.
Beautiful advice. What extraordinary discovery have you found in your life?
Discovery that love conquers all. Love conquers all. In other words, personal relationship, even in running the business, you have to love what you're doing and to love the employees. And every time you have to make a decision, like firing people, okay, you have to do it with love. What is fair? So that's why I said, maybe in order to ease my conscience, I have very generous separation pay for all of my executives. For this. In fact, I'm so glad because one who was an accountant said, I've always wanted to be a lawyer. And because I gave her generous separation pay, she studied for law. And
Fantastic.
and she worked with Sherman and Sterling. And another one secretary has always wanted to start a daycare. They had a big house in Staten Island, and her son, her eldest son, had autism or something like that. So she started a daycare, and she ran it for 25 years until her children are in college, including her eldest, who was, he's working.
Yeah.
So in other words, you are a business owner and you have to make a drastic decision that will affect the lives of your employees. Think about it. What is the fairest way for the business to stand and those that you are going to dismiss, have something? That's why I am very upset when we hear of these big companies like Jeff Bezos buying Twitter and immediately cutting off 50% of his employees. I mean, it boggles my mind. It boggles my mind.
Yeah, it's pretty tough out there sometimes, isn't it?
Yes, but for those who have been affected by this employment, okay, yes, you suffer with your bruises, whatever, and then go out again and let everybody, just tell people, meet people, friends. You meet them, friends, over coffee, and say, I'm looking for this kind, very particular. What is it? Your biodata. What is it you're looking for? All right. Just spread it out there. Don't just stay you can stay in your room and mope a little bit, that's natural. And then go out again.
Yeah.
The sun will come up tomorrow.
The sun will come up tomorrow. Thank you so much for being on the show, Mrs. Lewis. You're such a...
Call me Loida, please.
Loida.
Because I call you Rhonda.
Yes, you may call me Rhonda. I may call you Loida. You're such an honorable woman, and you arrive with such grace, such wisdom, and you have a lot of knowledge. I know that, but your wisdom, and not a lot of people have a whole lot of wisdom, and that's what you were graced with. You make really good decisions, and you're just a pleasure to speak with. I could talk to you even longer. You just have so much to share and so much to give. And I'm going to pick up your book, and so that I may read more about you and Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
You can call me anytime. And thank you very much for having me share your social media, share your time with this Rhonda Grant show. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
God bless you. Theme song for the Rhonda Grant Show, Sun on the Water, is composed and performed by my friend John Park Wheeler. This is Rhonda Grant with the Rhonda Grant Show, author of Magical Forces Within, Extraordinary Discoveries in an Ordinary Life, inviting you to look for the magical forces within yourself today and every day. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in to the Rhonda Grant Show with your host, Rhonda Grant. If you would like to find out more information about Rhonda and her upcoming guests and the work that she does, go to her website, rhondagrantauthor.com. That's rhondagrantauthor.com.
Digital Audio Health by Cymatrax.